G'day, welcome to this video from the Central Safety Group. My name is Kevin Jones and I'm a life member of the Central Safety Group. I'm an OHS consultant, a freelance journalist and also writer of the Safety at Work blog. The Central Safety Group is a volunteer organisation that meets monthly in Melbourne, Victoria, and has a guest speaker at each of those meetings. We'd love to have you as a member. So if you're interested, please go to centralsafetygroup.com. That's the website in which there's more information about the group and also the possibility, the opportunity to become a member. And whenever I attend Central Safety Group meetings, I try to show what the latest books are about health and safety, because they don't get a lot of promotion, and there's some excellent work out there. So I'm going to talk about a couple of books and a research paper that I think is directly relevant to what we're going through at the moment and to how we emerge from the pandemic. So the first book I wanted to recommend to you was a book called The Bystander Effect. I'll get the title exactly right. The Bystander Effect, The Psychology of Courage and Inaction. It's written by Sanderson, and it deals with why we intervene when we see things going right and going wrong, and also just the norms, the values and the morals that we have when we bring something to somebody else's attention. Now, this is directly relevant to workplaces and health and safety, because in the context particularly of bullying, sexual harassment, even sort of insidious behaviour, we're now expected to bring it to the attention of the people in the incident or the altercation, whatever it is, straight away, and point out to them that their actions are wrong or harmful. It also means that we also are expected to raise those issues to our supervisors and line managers if we can. But it takes a lot of courage sometimes to step into these circumstances and to tell someone face to face that what they're doing is wrong. So Sanderson looks at the psychology of how that happens, but also the different contexts in which we're expected to, we're expected to intervene. And so she has chapters specifically on schools and workplaces, and I think it's particularly useful. It's only been out for a couple of months. Probably the easiest way to get it is an ebook at the current, unless you want to wait for a home delivery. But it's a terrific book. I can't say it now. It's a terrific book and an important one, I think. Another publication that's come out, or that's been released but will be officially published in June, is quite a long analysis by Professor Michael Quinlan and a dozen of his global colleagues on, it's big picture stuff about COVID-19. The paper is called The COVID-19 Pandemic, Lessons on Building More Equal and Sustainable Societies. And why that's relevant to OHS is that we operate within workplaces. Those workplaces operate within a socio-economic context and supply chains, legislation, and a whole range of other things that in the past, prior to the pandemic, may be working fine, or at least operating. But the consequences of COVID-19 is that when we re-emerge from this, should we go back to what we had, or should we try to improve? And Quinlan and his colleagues say that we desperately need to improve, and he outlines how to do that. So some of that big picture stuff will flow down into how OHS needs to operate, but also how it needs to present itself, and maybe even how it needs to raise its voice and make its case. So that'll be out in June, but we can get a copy to you early if you were at least members of the Central Safety Group. Now, the last book that I'll talk about, because I don't want to go on too long here, is a new book by Michael Quinlan, a lawyer in Sydney with Clyde & Co. And he's written the latest book in his series for CCH Walter Cluyers. This one's on mental health. Now, most will be familiar with Toomer's stuff. He's certainly been a very prominent OHS speaker and lawyer. The good thing about this series is that he doesn't only talk about law, although that's the crux of his discussion, but he quite often talks about the managerial impact and the managerial context of how that law is expected to apply. So I'm about halfway through this book, and it's not difficult to read, but it's a very good book. I just wanted to read just a couple of things to give you a taste of what Michael talks about. He doesn't spend a great deal of time on this, but he does talk about the industrial manslaughter laws because they are coming in Victoria in a couple of months' time, and they're already in Queensland. But he says this about industrial manslaughter and mental health. He says that a mental health incident that results in suicide would fall within the scope of that offence if the mental health incident was caused by the negligence of the PCBU. Now, that's something that's been flagged by Daniel Andrews in Victoria and others, but it's confirmed by Toomer. He also says a death resulting from a mental illness arising from work would relevantly have been caused by the acts and omissions of the relevant organisation. So he clearly believes that industrial manslaughter prosecution could eventuate from mental health mismanagement or suicide, or particularly suicide because of the death. So it's quite an interesting one to follow through, and could be quite a spark and a motivation for change in some workplaces. Another mental health manifestation is workplace bullying. Bullying has been identified as a workplace hazard for many, many years. But our understanding of workplace bullying and what causes it has evolved over many years. And Toomer sort of spends a little bit of time on bullying, not a lot, but a little bit. And this is what he says about the current approach. If we are to effectively address bullying at work, we need to address the systemic factors that allow it to occur and flourish. That means looking at recruitment practices, policies, induction and training, supervision, including the capability of managers, systems of work, reporting culture, strategies for building a more tolerant organisational culture, including addressing unconscious bias and strategies aimed at building leadership capability. Now, that's a broad and a very big agenda for workplace bullying that we haven't sort of heard, certainly 5 or 10 years ago, we wouldn't have got to that way. But it's also an approach that applies to so many other elements of work, mental health at work, including the mental harm that can result from sexual harassment, insidious workplace behaviours, and a whole range of things. So what he's clearly saying is that we need to look at the big picture within workplaces. We need to look at the structures of how we work, and we have to look at the organisational culture. And that echoes some of the things that Quinlan and his colleagues are saying, and it also supports some of the elements of Sanderson's book in terms of bystanders. The improvement in workplace health and safety requires us to step up, to speak up, and to be more engaged with changing occupational health and safety in our workplaces, rather than just being reactive and just trying to work out whether we comply as a minimum. We should be complying, to a great deal higher standard than what we're doing at the moment. And Toomer provides some ways of doing that. So there are only brief reviews and brief mentions of books and papers. So I'm sorry that it's so short. But I'm sure that there'll be more discussions of these issues and other issues in upcoming Central Safety Group videos. So please consider becoming a member of the Central Safety Group by visiting centralsafetygroup.com. As I said, the Safety Group has operated on a volunteer basis for over 50 years, and we do offer every month a speaker at our lunchtime meetings in Melbourne, Victoria. It's a really useful networking and knowledge event, and this video is a little tease, I suppose, of what can be discussed at these group meetings. So my name is Kevin Jones, and I hope to see you soon at one of the Central Safety Group meetings. Thanks for watching.